In this video, we're going to learn how to create prototypes in Figma. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create two frames. Now, it can be one of these iPhone mobile frames. So simply select a frame, and we're going to rename this to 1. And we're going to add the first touch point. So let's just pretend that we have a call to action at the very end of this frame. And I'm going to round it up. And I'm going to create a duplicate of this frame right here, which is going to be the second one. Now at this point, we're going to create the second touch point to a dark color, just so that we can easily reference it in the prototype. Now the way that prototypes work is very simple. You simply want to select the prototype mode, which is on the top right hand corner, and now we are officially in prototype mode. Now at this point you won't be able to see much until you select a frame. Now, the moment you select a frame, you can see that at the borders, we're going to find these prototyping connector options. So if I simply click on one and I drag and drop it on the second frame, we're going to have the very first connection point. Now, the great thing about this connection point is that they allow us to dictate the type of connection that there's going to be in the prototype within one frame and the other. And by default, we're going to have it on top. And there's a bunch more, but these are more advanced options, which you probably won't use all that much unless you are doing some very specific type of prototyping. So we're going to ignore them for the time being, and we're just going to keep it on top, which essentially means that the moment that I tap on this frame, it's going to redirect to the second one. Now, this is the part where this is established. So this option is navigate to. Now, again, there's a bunch of other options which we're probably going to explore in other videos in more detail, but for the very most part you want to keep it to navigate to, and 2 is the frame, so you can actually decide which frame you want to navigate to also from this drop down. Now the last thing that I wanted to focus on before we actually open up the prototype and see what's going on is the type of transition effect. So by default it's going to be instant, and if we click on the play button on the top right, we're going to see how Figma is opening up the prototype mode, and you can see that we have our iPhone, and if we click pretty much anywhere on this frame, you're going to be redirected to the second one. Now, this is not very exciting, right? So we're going to mix things up, and what we're going to do is we're going to change this to dissolve. And what dissolve is going to do, as we see here on the preview, is going to apply a transition which is going to create a dissolve with an ease out at 300 milliseconds. So there's a little bit of delay. So if you go back and we click on R, in order to restart the prototype, you can see that the moment they click on pretty much anywhere in the canvas, you are going to see this transition effect. Now, there is an issue which you might have already spotted, and that is that we don't really want to click on anywhere in the frame in order to go to this second one, but we simply want to essentially have this element bring us to the second frame. So this is what we're gonna do. We can easily select this layer right here, and we can bring it on to the second one. So you can see how this applies for both frames and also components. So keep this in mind, because in some scenarios you're going to need to have the entire frame bringing you to another area of the second frame, or in other cases, it's simply going to be a component. So we can simply keep it as it is. And if we go back in the prototype and we click on R, you can see that only if I click on the button, I'm going to be redirected. So if I click anywhere else, I'm going to have this suggestion by Figma, which is going to essentially tell us, hey, if you need to click here, you can click anywhere within the artboard in order to go to the second frame. So that's that. And one thing which we wanted to explore is also the Smart Animate. Now, Smart Animate is really interesting because it's going to create a smart animation based on the previous state of the object. So in order for Smart Animate to work, you need to have the rectangle named in the same way. So as you can see, we have rectangle 1, but if I change it to rectangle 2 and I try to go back and click, you can see that the animation isn't going to be a transition between the first state and the other. So Smart Animate is definitely something that we're going to leverage a lot when it comes to prototyping, and we're going to explore in more videos other applications that really shows you the power of the Smart Animate feature. Now there's also a few different other options as we can see over here. First one is going to be move in, and if we try it, you can see how this entire section moves in, and I'm going to change the color of the background just so that we make this even more clear. So as you can see, this entire screen is going to move in, and you can easily change the direction in which the screen moves in. So this is going to allow you to achieve all sorts of effects, and I can also change the duration. So if I put a very big value like 1000 milliseconds, you can see how this is going to be very slow in terms of this transition. And I would like you to take a moment after this video and basically explore all of these other options and see how they work, because it's really important to have an idea as to the possibilities and the options that you have out there when it comes to these type of transitions, and essentially what is possible, so that you can tackle every project with confidence, knowing that these are the options at your disposal. Now, one more thing that I wanted to discuss is this initial flow right here. So you can easily just drag and drop this wherever you want, and this dictates where the flow is going to start. Now you need to click here on this sidebar icon in order to visualize the first flow, and this is essentially telling again where the flow is going to start. So if we create an animation where this by clicking this button, we're going to have the navigation to the first one, you can see how now we can create a different type of flow. Now let's pretend that we have multiple flows. So if we go back to the design, say that we want to create a second version to A/B test, so essentially creating two different variations of the same flow, or let's even pretend that it's a completely different flow. You can easily go here and basically select the frame, and at this point you can create a second flow, which you can of course rename to, for example, payments UX flow. And at this point you're going to have different flows with different prototyping features and connections, and pretty much anything that you want related to that specific flow. So even if you're creating a complex website or a web app with multiple flows, you can easily manage this in the prototyping section in Figma. And if we deselect the frame, you can also change the device. So for example, see that I want the iPhone 14 and I want it in blue color, and I want to change the color of the background to this gray. I can easily do that, and I can go back and if I refresh, you can see that now I'm going to have that specific model of iPhone. Now I'm going to need to, of course, resize the artboard, since, as you can see, the current one was for a smaller iPhone, so I will need to resize this. But you can easily mix and match these options very easily, as well as managing the flow right here. You can also preview it. You can copy a link to a specific prototype flow. So this is going to be really useful if you want to share it with other members of your team or even clients and stakeholders, as well as selecting the specific frame where the flow starts. So even in complex Figma designs files, you're going to have this very granular option at your fingertips. So this is it when it comes to prototyping. Now I want you to take action and experiment in Figma, all these things that we discussed, so that you can become familiar with prototyping and bring your design skills to the next level.